While our new government in Ottawa spends time bickering, setting things up, and basically not doing any work, we've seen the rise of Alternative Canada. And today, we look into it. Let's go.
The world's changing in strange ways. The present feels deranged. So let's see what I think. Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. Thanks so much for subscribing, liking, and I love seeing all the comments that you guys are posting on these videos. It's a great conversation to have, and it helps out the channel too, so thanks for participating. Now, while Ottawa smiles for cameras and rolls out the same tired old talking points, something remarkable is actually happening across our great nation. And it's happening far, far from Parliament Hill. See, Canada is building its own backup plan. And who knew this would be coming? But when you have a government who's spending so much time infighting and talking about themselves and celebrating over a glass of whiskey for being promoted to cabinet, we have Alberta to Saskatchewan, from rural Ontario to coastal BC. Canadians are saying, well, wait a minute. Enough is enough. We're not waiting anymore. We're not waiting on our government to actually do something for us and to help us out. Enough of the federal overreach. Enough of the bureaucratic chokeholds. Enough of Ottawa forgetting who keeps this country actually running. This, my friends, is the rise of Alternative Canada. And it's a beautiful thing because it's where real people, real communities, and real provinces are doing what Ottawa won't. This is a special moment in Canadian history, despite what we're facing as an economy, housing, cost of living, all of it. There's something really powerful happening among our ranks throughout this entire nation, and it's something we need to focus on today because it's also something we need to be very, very proud of as Canadians. Let's start in Saskatchewan, where local governments and community organizers are fighting back. Not with protests. We're not seeing protests across Saskatchewan. Instead, we're seeing pragmatism. In the face of things like rising grocery costs, things like fuel taxes, and other things like supply chain bottlenecks that are constantly driven by ridiculous federal policy and people just getting in the way from Ottawa, Saskatchewan farmers have kind of figured this thing out. We talked yesterday about a co-op of seniors helping out in Saskatchewan, while farmers and rural co-ops have formed networks to bypass the centralized control of our government. They're stockpiling grain, negotiating their own shipping lanes, and even creating localized food distribution systems, all without the input of Ottawa, all without waiting for Mark Carney to get his government started. And since they've been on pause for over 8 months, it's no wonder this is happening. And none of this is theoretical. It's already happening quietly and effectively, and not just in Saskatchewan either. So while Ottawa imposes climate mandates that ignore our rural realities completely, by the way, Saskatchewan and other provinces are saying, well, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to protect our economy ourselves. We're not going to wait for you, Mark, and we're not going to wait for the people you appointed to settle into their thrones in their green seats and start talking back and forth about what they may or may not do, only to implement it nearly over 12 months later. So then there's Alberta. And yes, this story is far more well known, but this isn't just about oil. This is about sovereignty, autonomy, and it's also about pushback. Now, some people would argue that Danielle Smith is being too pushy. I argue that's not the case. She's being protective of her citizens. Danielle Smith's Alberta sovereignty within a United Canada Act, is no longer symbolic. It's actual strategy. The province is actively working to shield itself from the impacts of federal decisions on energy. And there have been so many, from corporate and commercial carbon taxes to carbon credits and everything else, land use, and now even digital ID systems and agricultural regulation in the province of Alberta. Stay out of it, Ottawa. And let's not ignore it. Separation is back. It is talk, and it's not Quebec. The more Ottawa forces a one size fits all policy on an entire country, this vast and this diverse, the more provinces like Alberta feel like they're living in a system stacked against them. We have reached a point where a growing number of Albertans are saying, if Ottawa is not going to listen to us here, maybe we build something better ourselves. This is alternative Canada. You're seeing this kind of thing happening even now with mainstream media and seeing podcasts like this one and shows like Moose on the Loose and Jasmine Lane and Northern Perspective and so many more. It's becoming alternative Canada in a beautiful way. And it doesn't stop there. From BC to Ontario, it is happening. It's not just the prairies. In British Columbia, groups of loggers and landowners have formed private stewardship. They're private stewardship associations, bypassing federal conservation boards. And this is a great thing because it's, again, bureaucracy that gets in the way. They are trying to maintain and manage forests based on generational knowledge, things generations before them have done to protect our forests. They're not using Ottawa desk policy to do so. And that is a beautiful thing, folks. In Ontario, rural school boards are pushing back against federal curriculum laws and guidance. Guidance. It's what they're telling them to teach. They're calling it out of touch with reality and unfit for their communities. So what are they doing? These communities have gone ahead and they are reinstating vocational programs, farm training, and they're even reinstating regional civics courses that Ottawa and Ottawa's bureaucrats would never understand ever because none of them have worked in these zones of this country. And in every province, from coast to coast, there is a growing network of farmers, but not just farmers, also a growing network of tradespeople, local politicians, and business owners who are saying enough with Ottawa. Let the capital play its politics all it wants, but we've got work to do. This is such a powerful time in Canada. Alternative Canada rising like this is not dissidence. It is not treason. It is trying to protect what you know and love, trying to protect our home and native land. And Ottawa's response? Well, it's pretty much just denial. What has the federal government done in response to all of this? Because surely they see it. They see podcasts like this. They see the different responses that the provinces, territories, and small towns are using. But overall, they've simply just ignored it. Oftentimes, they'll mock it. Or worse, they try to regulate the hell out of it, to regulate it out of existence. They call these people fringe. That's right. You protecting your home, protecting your cost of living is fringe. They pretend these movements are anti-science or anti-progress or anti-government, but they are none of those things. See, all of these movements are just to protect people's lives. They are pro-Canada, but they're just not pro-Ottawa. And that doesn't sit well for a government who wants to have its hands in everything that you do. Ottawa has become a bottleneck, and every week that passes without any change, another community finds a way to operate outside of its grasp. And that's not just rebellion, folks, that is resilience. And that is absolutely key to what is happening and what is going to happen in Canada. Because as Pierre Poilievre said, we are going to have to do this internally before we ever talk about trade outside of this country. Many communities in alternative Canada are taking the reins and following that advice. This is the Canada most media won't show you because it does not fit the narrative. It does not help them get funding from Ottawa. It doesn't serve the party in power who gives them that funding. And it reminds us that leadership, real leadership, doesn't actually require a title or a cabinet position. It requires action. The people of alternative Canada are not looking to tear the country apart. Quite the opposite. They're trying to hold it together in the face of massive incompetence. And it's now been over a decade of this incompetence, and it's set up to continue because of voters across this country not looking at the real story. And maybe, just maybe, this alternative Canada, they're the ones who still remember what this country is supposed to be, which is free, strong, and built from the ground up. This is your Canada. Therefore, you can take over. Not taking over government, not overthrowing government, but while Ottawa talks, Saskatchewan builds. While bureaucrats bicker, Alberta plans. And while the establishment clings to whatever it is they cling to, mostly trying to just cling to power, Canadians are quietly reclaiming their own power. This is alternative Canada, and it is not waiting for Mark Carney and his permission. All right. I would say this was mostly a positive episode, but as you know, we want to make sure that we keep it positive and showcase some of the things that are going on across this country in our brand new segment called What the Maple. Now, What the Maple is an important segment because it is showcasing businesses, people, towns, and community groups that are doing great things across this country despite our government. And in today's What the Maple segment, we shine a spotlight on a group of high school students in rural Nova Scotia. These students, instead of waiting for climate policy from above, launched their own student-led reforestation project. You know, replacing trees that have been cut, real things that we can work on in our environment. They've already planted over 10,000. Yes, you heard that right. A group of students have planted 10,000 native trees in just 6 months. They've partnered with local conservation groups and are now building a carbon offset credit system for regional businesses. Their own credit system that doesn't talk about carbon. See, that's real leadership. That is real environmentalism. That is replacing what we've taken from this earth. That is fine. Not a press conference in Ottawa talking about a tax that's going to somehow miraculously close the hole in the ozone layer. Not a press conference from Ottawa, but real action with roots in the ground. These students didn't ask for permission. They just saw a need for their country, exactly what we've been talking about today. And they did something about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It does not need Ottawa red tape. It does not need Ottawa's seal of approval. And that, my friends, is the kind of Canada that truly gives us hope. Bravo, Nova Scotia. Bravo to those students as well. You're the good news that this country needs right now. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. Thrilled to have you here. Again, if you could like, subscribe, put your comments in below. I love to read them and also hear what you're saying about this type of topic and others, and also like to hear what other topics you'd want to hear about. So put that in the comments below as well. I'm Chris Baker. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things, and we'll see you next time.